Well, howdy everyone. Welcome to PJ's Podcast with Pastor Joel Rice. So glad that you could join us as I do another sermon review this week on my I Am Love series, which has been just a great series to dive into God's Word, to look at the Ten Commandments, and really more than just think about them as a specific law, but think of them as also, because they are, but also as how does this apply to all of my life in general? That's what Jesus did. Jesus looked at some of those commandments and explained them out to their nth degree. And I think that's important for us to really take the wholeness so that it starts changing how we think, so that we don't actually break the commandment literally and or spiritually, or how we're thinking, the whole thing. So it's been a great series. So this last week I covered another really unpopular topic when it comes to churches, and it's basically thou shalt not steal. And that one's, again, it's another one of those sermons that you're just like, well, duh. I get it. There's people who like the idea of breaking in, and the thrill of it all. Sometimes it's out of desperation because of their addictions, or for that matter, because of their poverty or other things. It's just a mess of things. But yet we know intrinsically that it's not right. Yet we tend to put our own twist on it. Again, I could start from the beginning and go to the I am who I am, is what God says. There is no others. I can go back to recognizing that He wants a relationship with us, and not to put Him in a box, but to actually to come to know who He really is, instead of imagining who He is or making an image or whatever. I can go back to all of those things. But I think as we really consider all of this, and we start looking at where our treasures are, that's where I went on Sunday, was where our treasures are, our hearts will be also. And Jesus throws in a little mini parable in there that a lot of us don't pick up on. He sandwiches it between these ideas of where our treasures are, our hearts will be also. With, if our eye is bad, what we see is darkness. What we actually receive is darkness, right? But if our eye is good, we'll receive light. So if our eye is bad and we're seeking darkness, how dark is it? How deep does that rabbit hole go? And there's the problem. Most of us don't recognize where our focus is. If our focus is on ourselves, our own desires and our own things, money becomes ours and mine, and instead of a tool to trade our good works for somebody else's good works. And it leads to all sorts of trouble. It leads to places that again, we just focus on ourselves and our own desires. So yeah, you might be thinking about, I'm going to make, I need to make the business good because I want a great business, rather than because it's serving my family and their families and all that other stuff. There's so many examples of this just throughout life. It's about my family first, which there's nothing wrong with that. I need to take care of my wife first, and then my kids, specifically if they're at home, but also helping them and the grandkids, things like that. That's super important. But if we make that the priority over everything else, then we'll be tyrants to the starving that are next door to you, your neighbor. And I think that's really, really important for us to understand, is that next level is, okay, but if I'm so much on that, then where is teaching our children and our grandchildren how to make sacrifices to help our neighbor, even when they're unworthy, even when they do silly things? And in a sense, we can steal so many different things: integrity and time and relationship and even knowledge, not sharing our knowledge with our children and our grandchildren, and not them being robbed of education and even our experiences as we've struggled with walking with God. I mean, being honest about our failures, not being open. Here's a good one: not being open with our checkbooks and letting our kids see how we spend our money and even our mistakes, for that matter. And then they don't learn through both our successes and our failures. And then they start keeping secrets, and that's not good either. I mean, I know I need to protect our kids from some of the stresses of life, but if we don't show them what those are at all, they don't learn any of this, how to deal with them. And so when they get into dealing with the stresses of life, now becomes this big, huge problem. And we're stealing. We're stealing from them. If you don't give them discipline, you're stealing from them. You're robbing from them. If you're not giving them praise, you're stealing from them. You're robbing from them. I can go on and on and on. But let's come back to what Scripture says. Malachi, great book. He starts off with telling the priests that they're doing a terrible job and that they're robbing, bringing gifts that are unworthy of God. They're giving the lame and the broken, and I mean, your governors wouldn't accept that. Then you're letting the people on top of it treat me the same way and bringing in rotten grain and bad animals and some that got tore up by other critters, and you're offering that to me as a sacrifice? Okay. Then you're wondering why the people are robbing God, because they're not bringing in the tithes like they're supposed to, that feed the priests who do their jobs. And it just is going downhill. The eye is bad, and it's all leading to darkness. And you're whining, oh, this is so wearisome. And instead of going, well, God's been providing, protecting, and if I would just trust Him. And that's what God says. If you'll just test me, bring the whole tithe in. Start doing the right things. It's a test on the whole thing, not just part of it. Do the right stuff all the way through. Test me on this and see if I won't take care of you. Now he's talking about the priests and the promises that were originally made to the Old Testament people, and there's a bleed over, because I'm not a name it claim it person. I do know that when I started giving on a regular basis what God put in my heart first, and eventually it did become a tithe. I'm not going to back away from the word tithe because, but I'll be honest with you, in the New Testament, it's not really used for people within the church after Jesus talks about it in the Gospels. However, right, God put in what is in your heart, and trust Him with your time, with your brain. I mean, are you not giving back to the one who provided? That's including with your neighbors, and the church itself has bills, but there's missionary people out there in this world that can be funded for so little, and yet we're not willing to even give that. It's bigger than this. I know this little church that I'm at is doing great, and I'm very proud of them. And again, if you're right on the edge of poverty and starving and all that kind of stuff, and you're doing the right thing, don't worry about it. But the other side of it is that even if it's $10, if you trust the Lord and you start praying and He puts on your heart, you know what, I'm going to give regularly. I know I can't hardly even afford that, but I'm going to do it because I trust God. Watch Him bless you. Watch Him move your heart. Watch Him change how you look at your budget. Watch Him do a whole bunch of stuff. He's God. He's greater. Will we trust Him? And that's the point. In the end, it's will we trust Him? And where is our focus? Where's our focus? Is it about our day-to-day life, or is it something greater? And I know it's something greater. And that's where He wants us to be. Paul talks about it in a couple different letters about the love of money is the root to all sorts of evil. It's not money itself, it's the love of money. And those who want to make themselves rich have burdened themselves, right? With so many struggles and sufferings trying to chase after the golden butterflies. And some have walked away from the faith because of it. because God hasn't blessed me the way I want, and I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to walk away from the faith. I'm not going to give. I've got all my priorities about myself and my family and my things and this. And people are going to hell. And babies are dying and by abortion and other things because we won't care enough to make the sacrifices necessary. Stand in the gap. Ouch. Anybody else? Ouch. Jesus, in that same part of Matthew chapter 6, finishes it up, but basically you can't serve two masters. You can't serve both God and the things of this world. Mammon is the technical term, but it's the idea. It's not just money itself, it's all of our stuff. And in the end, we rob those around us of the goodness of the Lord. You might be stealing people's lives and murdering because you're unwilling to share the gospel with them. Or God's love for that matter. And you're keeping back something that he has plenty of. You can't outgive God with his love. So why aren't we trusting him? Why aren't we moving? He's not asking us to, he is asking us to lay it all down and trust him. And that's the truth, which we'll be hearing more about next week. Thank you for joining PJ's podcast. And I pray that you'll hear this truth, that what we focus on is the direction we're going. And if our eye is bad and we don't even realize it, how deep in the darkness will we go? But if we're looking for the light, he'll reveal himself. Have a blessed day.